Yeah. So, I'll just get my thinking here. So, hi everyone. So, my name is Wahab Hamou-Lhadj. I'm a professor at Concordia University. I'm an affiliate researcher at NASA JPI. And I'm pleased today to talk to you a little bit about a survey we have conducted. This is in collaboration with NASA GPI, Maged Elaasar, and Polytechnique Montreal, Bentley, and Mohammad Hamdaqa. So it's a survey on the practitioner experience and challenges for model-based systems engineering. So, what's the goal of this study? Well, all we know that MBSC enhances collaboration and system understanding by using models. So models are the centric point of using systems engineering. There are many benefits that have been documented in so many papers, like improved traceability, error reduction, early issue detection efficiency, and so on. The problem is that if you look at existing surveys, there are not many that discuss the adoption of MBSC, not systems engineering, the model-based systems engineering per se. In fact, there are many inconsistent if funding, see, when you think of it this way. We don't have real-world data on standardized use across large organizations. So what we decided to do, decided to go ahead, it was in a workshop, in fact, we decided to go ahead and said, let's go and do a survey where we're going to pretty much ask practitioners, what do you think about MBSE and how do they use it in various organizations? We didn't really worry about languages and things like that. We know that system has been used extensively, but we want to look at the practice at the organizational level. So really the idea is to get some insight from real practitioners on the practices, tools, challenges, and recommendations we may make. So give you an overview process of the study itself. So we started as authors, we started by literature review. We looked at what's out there in terms of papers and so on, and especially the ECOS ecosystem. And after that, we created a set of questions we thought would give us an interesting coverage of what we're looking for. We decided to send those questions out to practitioners through different networks, so documented in the paper. And now the practitioner got the chance to do this and complete the surveys. Once we got the answers, we had around 76 participants, which is not bad, by the way. It's not a lot. Obviously, we wanted to have more. But once but it's not easy to get people from industry really be involved that much. So 76 is not a bad number. We analyzed the results ourselves as a team, but also what we have done in the last 2 years, there's been a workshop, an industrial workshop known as OntoNexus, that talks about model-based system engineering. It was organized by NASA JPL. And it was a 2023 edition and 2024 edition. In 2024, it took place January last year. We had around 120 plus attendees from various industries. And we asked them, we gave them the results of the survey. We asked them to try to analyze the results with us. And based on their feedback, we compiled all their inputs and the inputs that we received from the participants, and we wrote down the paper basically and presented that. By the way, speaking of OntoNexus, this year what we have decided to do, we have decided to have a more academic version of it. It is co-located with models. We had it just last year. So now we have two versions, the industrial one and what we're having at models as well. And hopefully we're going to keep doing it for the upcoming years. So the survey was categorized into three types of questions. The first category of questions talked about the background of the participants, their home institution, level of experience, and so on. The second type of question, we talked about MBSE methods and tools. We really wanted to look at how it's done at organizational level. For example, the level of MBSE practice, the MBSE methods that are followed, the scope of the project, the MBSE project within an organization, the tools, and so on. Detailed questions are in the paper as well, and you can make them available as well on GitHub or something. The third type of questions, we really got a little bit into more details. We start discussing the MBSE model management and evolutions. And this set of questions stem from the challenges that are related to managing complex MBSE models from different domains. So we cover things like stakeholder visibility, change management, model co-evolution, change impact, cross-organization collaboration, and so on. So I'm going to start by giving you the results and also hopefully the insight and the recommendation that came out of this study. So first of all, the background of the participants. So we had around 20% who had less than 2 years around 7% with no experience, but the rest, they all have two and more. So pretty much we had almost 41% of the participants had more than 5 years experience, and 2 to 5 years, we had almost 33%. So it's fair to say that the people who answer those questions they have relatively good experience with MBST. In terms of their profile, so we had around 58% from North America. Maybe just the nature of the way we approach the participants again through our networks. That's why I might have been biased to go through North America. But we have a lot of people from Europe as well, 23%. Asia and the rest of the world is around 18%. So we asked them to identify themselves based on different profiles. 51% they would identify themselves as researchers, not necessarily from academia, but also from organizations. 45% as systems engineers, methodologists, 24%, so they are more from a methodology point of view, systems engineering, managers 21%, tool expert around 11%. So we really had a very good set of people who are really involved in system engineering from different perspectives. Now, in terms of industries that we covered, we went with very heavy industries. Those are some of the large corporations in the world, by the way. In aerospace, around 53%, defense, 36%, automotive, 22%, aviation, 14%. And there were around 38% who had connection with academia. Either they were professors or they are in companies, but they do have some sort of research projects and so on. So let me start with the first set of questions. We talked about the level of practice. So we really asked, what we did, we asked the question to based on pretty much 5-6 outputs, which is have they started adopting MBSE on a small scale? Or have they established, for example, MBSE practice for years? Another question, for example, are they exclusively using MBSE in their practice? In fact, when you look at the numbers here, clearly that people have not adopted 100% MBSE. For example, we have 38.5% said that they have started adopting MBSE on a small scale. 36.8%, they have established MBSE practice for years. It's not bad, but it's not enough. Some said that it's not applicable to them. Those perhaps are tool vendors as well. We had them in the survey. And you can see the 5.2%, only 3 participants said that they are exclusively using MBSE as their practice. When you ask them about which methodology they are using, it wasn't very surprising. We knew a little bit about that, but the data confirms that pretty much many organizations do not use any methodology, around 29.7%. So they try to figure out the way to use MBSE. They use perhaps the language as like a systemal, but they don't have clear methodology how it's being used. A lot said they use a custom methodology. Magic Grid and hybrid methodologies have emerged also as other possibilities and so on. So the paper has a lot of feedback from participants. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to put everything in the slides, but if you go to the paper, you see some feedback from novices, some feedback from experienced users. The most important feedback that we included in the paper. So you'll find all this in the paper. So for example, some of the example of comments we received, some of the challenges that people were facing said that all MBSE methodology need to be tailored to the needs of the project they have. They haven't found like one size fits all. Some mentioned lack of training and established best practices. That's why perhaps they're not adopting the existing MBSE methodologies. So what's interesting is that most of the participants, they said that they really tend to customize. They don't like to use what's out there. They like to adapt what they feel fits their work to their own project. Some of the standardized methodologies that came out, Magic Grid and OSEM and the hybrid approach emerged as most popular options. Now, we asked them, how do they use MBSE anyway, from the organizational point of view? Do they, for example, decide to go with using MBSE when they work on a specific project or a product, maybe a set of projects? We also included the program because some of those heavy industries, they have programs where they have multiple products within one program. And we all asked them whether they do that at organizational level. What's an interesting outcome here is that many organizations pretty much use MBSE at the level of project and product level. On organizational level, only 24%. of organizations said that we have an organization-wide strategy for MBSE. So some comments from participants, positive or maybe less in favor of that. Some of them said the development of an organization-wide MBSE methodology was possible through guidance and standards. For the people who adopted that, another interesting comment was that the aim of having organization-level methodology is to facilitate reuse and digital engineering platforms across programs or projects. So there is a benefit. Some of the participants have raised that, but as you can see, only 24% they have strategies at organizational level. Now, we asked also whether they find it easy to, for example, to customize MBSE tools and methods and so on. So this is, and we have some little bit of detailed questions there, just summarizing here. So as you might expect, 45% said no, it was extremely complicated. People who said yes is around 33%, but some people said somewhat. So they had to do a little bit of work around so they can get them to work. And those are the key points that came out of the various comments. Lack of semantics, so there is no standardized clear semantics among those tools and methodologies and so on. Time consuming, people find it very time consuming to customize existing tools to their tasks and methods. Vendor lock solutions were mentioned as well. Some vendors provide solutions where only them that can do the upgrade and not their customers. And it was raised as an issue. Interoperability was a problem too, and I understand that CSML v2, I think, is trying to address those, in fact. Cost is another problem that people have mentioned, and that's one of the reasons why they can't, they find it a little bit difficult to adopt, to customize MBSE tools for their methods. Now, we asked them as well, and that's another set of questions. I couldn't move my screen so you could see what, sorry. So another set of questions here. How do you integrate different domains and disciplines in your MBSE method? This is important. The reason why, because especially from a GPS perspective, we have developed so many MBSE related tasks and so on and products. When you work at systems engineering level, you want to integrate multiple domains that have different semantics, that come in different areas and so on. So we asked them, how do they integrate all this together? So there have been different solutions. 35% said they use ontologies. The problem, and in fact, the integration of those multiple domains and disciplines, it has been discussed extensively in the comments we have received as really a core challenge. People who try to do system engineering, they have to obviously navigate through different domains for which you don't necessarily have an expertise, but it was extremely hard to integrate all this together. We want to note here is only 33% responded to this question because of the complexity. So we might not generalize that well, so it gives us some hints and some insights. People talked about the fact that ontologies can be logical foundations to align various domains and various semantics from various domains. There were two that were mentioned, for example, the DASO experience, Katia, and so on. So some people suggested to integrate multiple domains in central data store and have very well-defined semantics so people can work on similar repositories and be able to have clear semantics when they integrate those domains. So another question is the collaboration. How does the MBSE method allow effective collaboration on models between different practitioners? That's again, it's related to the fact because when you have such a systems engineering project, you have a lot of stakeholders and you want to make sure that they collaborate effectively together. So only 38% of respondents replied positively to the question regarding collaboration support. They have mentioned tons of challenges. Semantic and technological interoperability between tools, lack of systems approaching current methodologies. A lot of people, and what's interesting about this survey, although some of the participants, many of them are technical participants, but we had some who have management positions as well. But many were talking also about the return on investment. They haven't seen a clear return on investment in investing in all that. Difficulty in collaborative model creation, synchronizing updates across users and so on. Those examples of challenges that clearly people are facing when they use those MBSE methods. Now, Another point, I try to go a little bit quicker. Another one was discussed is stakeholder visibility, the process by which they offer various stakeholders of a project visibility over the project itself. And again, because those projects involve various stakeholders, and how do they review progress and so on. So what they have said is that 42% reported that the MBSE methodology provides stakeholder visibility and support reviews. But how do they do it? They do it basically through model-based reviews, model navigation, mainly through web pages. That's a very common practice. So when people see the progress, they see, for example, the models and so on. The reports, that's something that people use all the time, diagrams and screenshots and so on. Now, continuous integration, continuous integration and delivery, design science methodology were reported, but not that much. It's like we haven't seen like a typical workflow we see in software development, for example, where you have like the entire pipeline where people have access, can do reviews, can do changes, and so on. We haven't seen this very well emerge in the area of MBSE. So the experts of the survey, they tend to the answers in fact tend towards web-based viewpoint specific reporting, but nothing fancier than that. You see the typical web-based reports as you might expect in various projects. So we asked them also how do the if they have a rigorous change process for the MBSE models. Let's say it has to do with model evolution and so on. So only 14% says they do, noting even limitation to tutoring and so on. So the main pretty much practice they use is through documented release processes, change requests and things like that. And they don't have, some of them do use, like, for example, automated reporting and Git and so on, but not at a large extent. Another perspective was given to us by some experts is that it seems that the problem is not only with the tools and the technology is out there, it's also a human problem. So again, because this is the area where we have different domains and different expertise and so on. So one of the experts mentioned that the primary challenges tend to be human rather than with respect to tooling. So another question we asked, and I think I'm almost done with the presentation. So we asked them about whether they organize their models into separate but interrelated modules. Modularization in systems engineering is an important component because, again, of the fact that there are multiple domains and so on. And if they have this modularization, what's the maturity level of their practices? And how do they enable evolution of these modules, and how do they deal with change impact? We have surveyed, for example, the practice again, and you can see all those numbers. 26.5% said they don't have any strategy in place. And it's only 12.8% if you look at the right side of the picture that said they have advanced modularization integrated into continuous development process and so on. What does this tell us? In fact, is like there's no clear process how to do it, which things like, for example, in software engineering, they do pretty much well. Maybe there are opportunities of improvement there too. But it comes to model-based system engineering, it seems that the practice hasn't caught up with what's happening in other areas like in software development and so on. So what we asked about other challenges in general. This is an open-ended question. A lot of people talked about training and knowledge gaps, organizational resistance. Many organizations do seem to resist to change, to apply MBSE in their context. Technical challenge, we talked about some of them. And again, there's always this question of return on investment. Came back many times, in fact. We were very surprised to see people are worried about cost and worried about how much they're investing into all those technologies, what kind of return they could get from it. Resistance to change comes from also going from conventional methods. People don't want to let go what they already have. Cost and benefits again. And the governance and security has been discussed. Not that much, but again, as you can see, 2.7% seem to raise concerns about data governance and security within MBSE practices and tools. Now, we made some recommendations. I summarized them in one slide, but the paper has a lot of details, in fact. We split the recommendations based on 3 categories. Some of them are organizational, another category are more technical. The first category is to really adopt an enterprise-wide MBSE adoption and standardization. So the idea is we start from the business point of view. So, for example, trying to align MBSE with strategic business goals of the organization. Why are they doing that? How does it align with all the projects they have? How does the adoption of MBSE how is it aligned with the vision of organization in the first place? So that organization point of view seems to be lacking in many organizations. It seems that it is the technical people who tend to bring those kind of technologies internally without having the buy-in from leadership and so on. And that alignment should happen at a certain point for a successful MBSE project. Another interesting thing is that we have a notice and we made a recommendation based on that is that those MBSE projects are not governed very well. There is lack of governance structure. For example, there is no way to measure success. How can we assess and can say that a certain methodology or adoption of that methodology and the project that stem from it like it's successful? So we need to have some sort of performance indicators. We need to think of performance. We need to track also the adoption and so on. The tooling ecosystem development is something else. We need to think about the ecosystem, and this is really within the organization. So when there is this alignment, there will be potentially investment on the ecosystem and not single tools that people put together with the thought that the tool is silver bullet, which is not really. If you don't have a strong tooling strategy that follows the organization, so it might not be successful. We also made recommendations on what we call cross-domain integration. We talked about ontology because of the semantics and so on, the potential solution for integrating various domains. We talked about purpose-driven incremental integration strategies as well, the use of standard language like XML-v2 for enhanced semantics and so on. So for the model management, evolution, and stakeholder visibility, we made recommendations on having integrated tools with stakeholder-specific views and live reporting. The whole infrastructure of collaborative processes and the rigorous modernization and impact analysis frameworks should be put in place. It's not only a single tool, it should be strategies put in place. As I said, what we see mainly done in software development, maybe we should adopt some of those successful things in MBSE as well. So before I finish, I'd like to acknowledge thank, in fact, all the participants who answered our questions. I'd also like to thank the participants of the AutoNexus 2024 workshop who gave us insight and for sharing their time and experiences. And on this, I think I finished my presentation, and thank you very much.